She wasn't born into royalty. She didn't come with riches, armies, or power. Just an orphan, raised in exile. A foreign girl living under the rule of the world's most powerful empire. Yet she was chosen, not by chance, not by beauty alone. She was positioned by divine purpose, hidden behind palace walls for such a time as this. But while kings drank from golden cups and nobles plotted in secret, a quiet battle was brewing, one that wouldn't be fought with swords or chariots, but with fasting, faith, and the bravery to speak when silence could mean death. Her name was Esther, and this isn't just the story of a queen. It's the story of how God saved a people through the most unlikely of heroes. In the days of King Xerxes, who ruled over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, his power stretched across the known world. From his throne in Susa, he reigned with absolute authority. To display his greatness, Xerxes held a lavish feast for 180 days, inviting nobles, princes, and military leaders from across the empire. Gold goblets and royal wine flowed freely. When those 6 months ended, the king opened the palace gates to everyone in Susa, hosting a 7-day banquet in the garden courtyard. Wine was served generously, with no restrictions. Meanwhile, Queen Vashti hosted a separate feast for the women inside the palace. But on the 7th day, when the king was merry with wine, he made a prideful demand: that Queen Vashti be brought before the guests wearing her royal crown so they could admire her beauty. Vashti refused. She would not parade herself before a drunken crowd. The king's pride was wounded. His own queen had publicly defied him. Enraged and humiliated, Xerxes turned to his wise men. One advisor, Memucan, warned that her defiance would spread. He said, "All women will hear of this and dishonor their husbands." They urged the king to remove Vashti and issue a decree throughout the empire that every man should rule his own household. The king agreed. A royal edict was sent to every province in every language, and Queen Vashti was dethroned. But little did they know, God's unseen hand had just begun to move. As time passed, King Xerxes' anger faded, and he began to reflect on Queen Vashti, her beauty, her bold defiance, and the decree that banished her. Though the law could not be undone, her absence lingered. Sensing the king's mood, his advisors proposed a solution. Let beautiful young virgins be brought from every province. After beauty treatments, the king can choose a new queen to replace Vashti. The king agreed. Messengers were sent across all 127 provinces, and young women were gathered from every corner of the empire, from India to Ethiopia. Among them was Hadassah, known by her Persian name Esther, a young Jewish orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai, a Jew living in Susa. He had taught her to fear God and keep her identity hidden in a foreign land. Esther was taken to the palace and placed under Haggai, the keeper of the women. Immediately, she stood out, not by demanding luxury, but through humility and grace. God gave her favor in everyone's eyes, especially Haggai's. For 12 months, Esther, like all the women, was prepared for her one appearance before the king. When her time came, she entered the king's presence with quiet dignity and strength. And when Xerxes saw her, he was captivated. The king loved Esther more than all the other women. She won his favor, and he placed the royal crown on her head, making her queen in place of Vashti. A royal banquet was held in her honor, a holiday was proclaimed, and gifts were sent across the empire. But no one knew she was a Jew. No one knew God had just placed his servant in the palace, not to be served, but to stand in the gap for his people. Esther continued to live quietly in the king's house, still following the instructions of Mordecai, just as she had when he raised her as a child. Mordecai, meanwhile, spent his days at the king's gate, a place where the city's business was conducted and where royal officials and servants gathered. Though he was no nobleman, God had placed him there with purpose. One day, as Mordecai sat in his usual place, he overheard something chilling. Two of the king's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, who guarded the entrance to the palace, were speaking in hushed, angry tones. Their voices low but full of resentment, they plotted to assassinate King Xerxes. What they intended was treason, the murder of the most powerful man in the world. Mordecai didn't hesitate. He sent word immediately to Queen Esther, who now had direct access to the king. Esther relayed the warning to Xerxes, clearly stating that the information came from Mordecai. An